Hi everyone, welcome to Training with Kayce, where we explore animal training and living our best lives with animals. I'm Joseph Laughlin, producer of this podcast, and now here's your host, Kayce Covert. Let's get started.
Hey, thank you, Joseph. It's Kayce Covert, and I'm your host for Training with Kayce. And tonight, let's talk about SATS. What's all that? So we've been talking a little bit about operant conditioning, and that is generally unconscious rote learning. You kind of batter down, stomp down a pathway, and the behavior tends to flow down that worn pathway that has less resistance and more use. And it leads to unconscious compliance, kind of automatic compliance. And I said, I generally don't want that. And I listed one example, which would be if I had an alert animal and that animal was trained to sit, to alert. I don't want a dog in a toxic environment to sit, to alert. The dog needs to assess the environment and choose the appropriate alert that's safer. Okay, so there is no one right answer. And the closer you work with animals in, the more complicated jobs, the more important this level of interaction becomes. So I want considered collaboration and even considered disobedience. I remember as a kid, I had an Irish setter I adored, and all of a sudden she ran across the road into the woods on the other side. And the coast was clear, and I immediately called her back. And she came running towards me, and a car came speeding out of nowhere. And she looked at the car, and she looked at me, and she ran right into the path of that car. And I learned then that I never wanted to set an animal up for that situation again. And of course, it was heartbreaking. So I want considered collaboration. Oh, really? La-di-da, I can hear you say. So what's the difference and how do you get that, Miss Smarty Pants? Well, we get it by training cognitively. And it's actually significantly faster and easier than any other way of training I've ever seen or partaken in. And I developed a system, SATS, which is short for Synalia Training Systems, in order to simply and reliably teach others and motivate them to collaborate in self-driven excellence. SATS, Synalia Training System. Synalia means with others. Okay? And we have our ideology. Our ideology is, first of all, we try to conduct ourselves, all of our SATS trainers try to interact with all others with integrity. In other words, we strive to be mutually beneficial, mutually responsible, mutually respectful, and transparent, congruent, and coherent. Take a look at the episodes 1, 2, and 3, which are about integrity, the elements of integrity, and how to preserve them, if you're interested in more about those subjects. Now we also see animals as intelligent and capable sentient beings, capable of consciousness. So, all right, great. That's how we see animals. What do we do about that to get the results we want? Well, we teach animals, first of all, to self-manage their emotions. Animals and people's failure to manage themselves is the leading cause of animals being euthanized, losing their homes, people not being able to interact with them, whether they don't cooperate with vets, whether they're aggressive or they get too excitable, which can be very damaging to them. It doesn't matter if the animal is too frightened or too aggressive or too happy or too sad. They need to learn to self-regulate and moderate their own behavior and emotions. And we teach them, as I said, to attain and maintain relaxation even in the presence of triggers. And triggers are environmental stimuli or events that cause animals arousal. But they actually can learn to deal with them very well in generally about 15 hours or less of training time. And we call that process perception modification. We also share information with animals. Now you think about this. You tell me what training system starts out by giving the animal their job description. Isn't that the way to do it? Now, can you imagine if you were on the job and your employer didn't explain what your job description was? He just set you loose and gave you praise if you just happened to do something right? I mean, that would be really difficult. And what if he started luring you through your job process with food? How fast would that get weird? Okay, so in operant conditioning, food is often used, and that's fine. And initially it was used in trial and error learning, but then somebody realized they could get the appearance of the behavior much more quickly by luring. And luring, it has the food, extended in front of the animal, and the animal goes through a behavior, and they have to do it according to the general rules that are being followed 8 times correctly before it gets named. And we're the opposite. We name things right at the beginning, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. When you lure, the animal isn't thinking about harvesting information, and that's actually a pretty important problem. When I was getting my master's in education, it was really stressed that anticipation is critical to the learning and education process. If you do not prime the student, human or animal, to be ready and looking for critical information, they're going to miss it. Why? Because there's so much going on all the time. It's our job as instructors and motivators to limit the focus, narrow the focus so that somebody can be successful. And that's what a target does. A target shows the animal to look here, put your body in this in contact at this point, put your attention right here at this point, and I will now show you what you need to know to be successful. We show them what they need before they ever do it. And as we do that, we name everything. We name what's going on around them, who's there, where they're going, features in the environment, names of other individuals, names of toys, food, etc. We build vocabulary. We also teach concepts: left versus right, over versus under, around, between, inside, outside, left versus right. Oh, I may have said that already. Sorry, guys. feet versus ears, all the body parts, all the different directions, duration, how long we're going to do something, counting, how many steps, how many objects. It goes on and on. So if we do the vocabulary, then we do concepts, and then we interrelate these skills and knowledge, the concepts of vocabulary, the things they learn to do, into a mental map. So rather than a lot of repetition, we have a lot of building. So we reinforce what the animal has learned by repeating it with a new piece of information. And then we connect it back. And by the time we get done, the animal knows its way around all of this information. It doesn't just go down a path where it does, a string of 30 things. It knows how to combine any one thing with any other thing that it knows how to do. This is so incredibly powerful. So we use the we call it name and explain when we do that. And we also have feedback, which is bridging. Keller Breland created that term. Some dog trainers will call it marking. It's the same concept, but we'll talk about another time how it got the name bridge and why I like to respect that name. Anyway, as we create and name tiny behaviors, we then combine those tiny behaviors into more complicated behaviors, which then get their own names. And it's like Lego training. You can build anything and you can modify it quickly and easily just by telling the animal up front which of these little behavior modules or components we're going to combine for what we're doing at that time. As I said, we support all this work with bridging, which is feedback on both the progress the animal makes and its success. So that would be the intermediate bridge, which marks the progress, and the terminal bridge, which marks the success. Once we have explained the behavior, we then invite the animal to collaborate. And believe it or not, it's fast and easy to do that, and then we negotiate with the animal for conditions and outcomes. We don't just throw food at the animal. Sometimes we do just give them food, but often as not, we'll say, if you do this, we can take a break and go play your favorite game, or we can go for a walk. Or many times with my horse, I've had to say, hey, I don't have any treats, or I'm not supposed to give you treats today. Can we just do this work and then we can go out and graze? And she'll literally say yes, and we'll do that. And everybody's happy and we enjoy the social time of going out to graze together. So in SATS, we use food but never luring. We use lots of bridging until we don't. That's when the animal advances beyond the need for bridging. And you think about it, when you're uncertain, when you're learning, you really appreciate feedback and, in praise and encouragement. But how would you feel if you were tying your shoes, all other things normal, not like you broke your finger or anything, right? And it might be more difficult than usual. You've been tying your shoes for 20 years and you're tying them today, and all of a sudden I come in and go, oh, that's really good. That's a great job of tying your shoes. What? Yeah, you wouldn't even be thinking that was nice. You'd be possibly a little irritated. Like, what do I think? What do I expect from you? Now, when we train this way, the results are amazing. It's really fast. Trainers report constantly that they save 25 to 75% off of their previous training times just by adding the intermediate bridge. That's freaking amazing. Add name and explain, and you're going to cut even more time off. Name and explain, just in case I didn't cover it, that is the process where we name everything and explain it. Okay, yeah, maybe you didn't really need that. Okay, moving right along. So it takes us less than 5 minutes to teach both kinds of bridges and a 2-finger target. In another couple of minutes, we can get duration up to a second and then to 8 seconds. Next thing, we're going to get the animal to align with our goals. And that leads it to self-driven excellence. So all of a sudden, instead of, come on, animal, do this, do this, do this. All right, I'll give you a bigger fish if you do it. No, we don't have to do that. We say, okay, Ace, this is what we're doing today. Can you do this? And 9 times out of 10, the animal will bend over backwards to do this immediately and correctly. Biggest problem we have is animals tend to get a little excited by the entire learning process. But the net result of all this is true collaboration. I'm not the authority figure so much as I'm the guide and the collaborator. That is a wonderful position to be in with an animal colleague. And it develops a passion for the work in the animal. And this isn't accidental. We will actively, we get the animal to do what we need it to do, what we want it to do for our purposes. But part of the negotiation is we make it our business to figure out what the animal likes, what the animal wants to do, what's important to that animal. And that's part of the integrity and making the thing mutually responsible and beneficial. We don't just do what I want, we do what we both want. So let's say I have a dog that wants to eat cats. Well, I don't want them to eat cats, and I teach them not to eat cats. But then what I might do is say, hey, you've become so good at managing yourself and you no longer threaten cats. If you like, we could go out and look for cats. It's kind of like these hunters that turn into wildlife photographers. They're still employing all their skills that they use to go out and harvest animals for food or for trophies, but they're using them in a different way that allows them to enjoy the process but not have the same problems. A lot of hunters that I've known, after they've carried enough deer or elk or caribou off of the mountains, they really prefer to carry a camera. And it's the same way for dogs. If you teach them how to enjoy the sport of looking for cats and all the nuances of looking for cats, they really enjoy it, and it's something we can do together. I know it sounds crazy, but wait till you try it. Now, where else can this lead? Wow, to something that is really a lot of fun, and that is two-way communication. Now, this isn't just fun, it's powerful. And it's powerful not just because we can ask the animal what it wants and so on, but we can gift the animal back some self-direction, to give them choices, honor those choices. But we can also get information directly from them. For example, bloodhounds can track people, and their tracking can be used as evidence in a court as long as the bloodhound can identify the human who caused the track. And this is actually a problem for some of these dogs because they don't have a way to identify the human that isn't intrusive to the human, maybe. Like they're not just walking into the human space. So we have a little protocol that allows the dog to identify the human without having to impose on them. And they're very happy to do that. And all of a sudden, their tracking is admissible in court. So two-way communication is really important. And what do all these different factors come together to give us? Well, they give us an animal that has a really wonderful life. They're happy, they're healthy, they're productive, they're cooperative, they're safe. All the animals that I worked with that started out to be aggressive all became very, very safe. And I'll admit that I didn't ever work in direct contact with, for example, the big cats that I worked with, gorillas, chimpanzees. We always, in a zoo, I didn't work in the circus myself, but in the zoo, it was usually protected contact. I have worked in direct contact and been in direct contact with elephants. But nonetheless, many of the animals were aggressive or dangerous at first, like my gray seals at the National Zoo. But quickly, they became extremely gentle and reliable, and it was really excellent because if we could not work safely with the animals, we couldn't do the kinds of medical interventions and medical collaboration that we were able to do because we were able to be safe. So our sister aquarium, in the first 8 years that the National Zoo had seals and sea lions, we lost one animal to a freak accident, but our sister aquarium lost half of their gray seals to routine anesthesia. On the other hand, we not only didn't lose animals to that cause, but out of the sea lions that we had, the two that I worked with directly had an expected lifespan of 20 years and lived to be, either 27 or 29 and 31 years old. And my two gray seals, the expected lifespan was 30 years. Longevity for a male was 33 years. Our male, Gunnar, lived to be 38 years old. And our female, Selkie, broke all the longevity records at 43 years. And it's not just them. Most of the animals I've worked with have enjoyed exceptionally long lives. It is important to the animal to be seen, to be heard, to be considered, to be respected. So this is the world of SATS, and we get to this using cognitive training tools. Now we do use operant conditioning because that is a process by which learning occurs, but we don't rely on it by itself. We always also come in and give a complete explanation and give the animals options and invite their collaboration and honor their collaboration. Okay, I'll bet some of you guys are just like having all kinds of cognitive dissonance right now. So thank you for listening. Thank you for thinking about this. And maybe sometime in the future, we can talk it out. Maybe you'll have things to share with me that will cause me to reconsider or develop something in a different direction. Or maybe you're going to hear things here which are going to turbocharge your training and give you better results and closer relationship than you've ever experienced before. Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to the world of SATS, and I really appreciate that you came in to spend some time with me. Take care.
Hey fans, are you enjoying Training with Kayce? Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Kayce Covert on YouTube. That is youtube.com/C/Kayce Covert. Also, give the podcast a like, share, and comment. Thanks for joining us. Come back for more news and views on animal training and living with animals. Stay at the top of the pack with Kayce. This is Joseph Laughlin, producer of Training with Kayce. See you next time.